Stories of Kansas life through the decades are historic treasures that would otherwise go unnoticed or be forgotten. These are the stories of Hatteberg's people.
I was kind of a badass. That could cut your throat in a minute.
Ken Soster wasn't proud of his past, but he didn't hide from it either. Instead, he strived to change and create a better life for his kids than he had had as a child. See that story from 1985 and then learn the rest of the story. Also,
people would never know just walking down this street that they have been walking over tunnels for years, many years.
We'll travel to 1984 and meet this woman who discovered the long-forgotten tunnels beneath her hometown. And we'll fast forward about 3 decades now to see how those historical tunnels have become Ellenwood's claim to fame. Then we'll have this story.
There's no trick to these working. They just step up as you shift them.
he made it look simple, but fixing bicycles went from a hobby to a full-time job for Bob Jackson of Anthony. He didn't have time for retirement. Hi, everybody. I'm Larry Hatteberg.
I'm Susan Peters. Those are just some of Larry's classic stories that are queued up and ready to roll on this edition of Hatteberg's People.
These stories are like old friends. Their lives radiate from the screen like prophets of the past. They were teachers, but not in a classroom. Instead, they taught about life to those around them who cared to listen, and I was their student.
Life has its challenges for all of us, but overcoming an abusive childhood oftentimes is a lifelong struggle.
Back in 1985, a man named Ken Soster had turned the corner and vowed to give his kids a very different kind of upbringing than he had had.
At 11, Ken Soster was an alcoholic. At 15, a drug addict. He was the kind of guy you didn't want to know.
I was kind of a badass. That could cut your throat in a minute.
That was the old Ken Soster. The new Ken is a church custodian. He's found religion and has a family that loves him. He's changed, but it hasn't been easy.
I've done everything wrong. I mean, I was brought up backwards. I was brought up to right, there's no wrong, you know. What you do is you do.
Working in his home garage, Ken is learning the TV repair trade, but his past haunts him. Beaten by his father when he was 5, he was then institutionalized. Teachers thought him retarded. He wasn't. Because of that, he only has 3 years of school. The rest of his education was on the street.
I do get mad sometimes. I do yell at my kids, and that's just the way they did me when I was young. But as far as being severe, mean, something like that, I'm not. I want my kids to understand that I love them, and there's somebody out there that will always want them.
Ken's wife, Pat, their son, Jacob, and 4-year-old daughter, Amy, all helped change his life.
From the first time I ever met him, I never thought that he was retarded. I thought he was a very smart man.
Because I got a daughter, I got a little boy now, and I got to make sure that they go to school. I got to make sure that they stay in school. Don't do like, you know, I don't want nobody putting them down. Nobody to tell them that they're not capable of doing something.
And it's, you know, the hurt's always going to stay there, you know, but he's learned to live with it, you know.
He's also living a new life that he found through his church. He keeps it neat, and it keeps him clean.
Don't matter what kind of color, what color you are, what creed you are, you're a person in God's eyes.
He was the type of person that no matter what come around, he wouldn't give up. And I loved him.
Imagine in your mind, like you keep an animal in a cage, and that animal gets loose. And when he gets loose, and a person tries to pet him or be kind to him, he's going to bite you. That's the way it was when we first got married.
Through love, patience, and much understanding, Ken Soster is a changed man. He might not be able to read the morning paper, but he can read a smile on his child's face.
And I want them to go to school, and I want to make sure that they learn. I don't want nobody putting them down.
Because Ken has learned from his past, his family has a future. And where books haven't helped him, plain old common sense has. This is Larry Hatteberg.
In later years, people called him Pastor Ken. He ministered at various churches and worked with the homeless. Loved by many, he passed away from cancer in 2019 at age 69.
As for the family, Ken and his wife were divorced a year after Larry did that story. Ken's daughter, Amy, still lives in Wichita and has great memories of her dad. Meanwhile, she says life has been a struggle for her family. Amy now has 3 daughters and a granddaughter, along with her ailing mother, who she helps take care of.
Now, Ken's son, Jacob, is now 37 years old. He was convicted of aggravated robbery in 2005 and served 12 years in prison.
Then 2 years after his release, Jacob was arrested and convicted again for robbery. He is currently incarcerated at the Ellsworth Correctional Facility.
But despite it all, and there's been a lot, Amy says her dad taught her that no matter how horrible life is, there's always something to be happy about. You know, when we do these stories originally, we never know the twists and turns that's going to occur in someone's life.
What's going to happen.
And obviously, Ken had a lot of twists and turns, and now the family, the same way.
You know, it just teaches you something about life, Larry. I mean, on TV, we like to think it's all fun and games, bells and roses and fairy tale. Life's not that way.
No.
We all have our struggles, we all have our challenges, and it's just how we deal with them that accounts for everything.
Yeah, her story is real life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also in the 1980s, one woman's discovery was the start of something big for her small community.
Now, if you know much about the town of Ellenwood, you probably know what we're talking about. It's now the city's claim to fame. But in 1984, Adriana Deroff had only recently made this discovery, which has since helped reshape her town's image from the underground up.
This is underground at Cake Television. We call it the boiler room. Very few people ever come down here. We've got the studios over here. We've got other offices over there. You know, this place has something in common with a woman in Ellenwood, Kansas. She, too, was looking down in her basement underneath her building one day, and she found that the building contained a key to the city's past.
Main Street, Ellenwood, Kansas. This is the Dick Building, built in 1887, and to the casual observer, all the activity appears to be above ground. But Adriana Deroff knows better.
People would never know, just walking down this street, that they have been walking over tunnels for years, many years.
In the 1870s, many businesses were located underground in Ellenwood, and they were all connected by tunnels. 2 years ago, when the Deroffs were cleaning out the basement of the old Dick Building, those connecting tunnels were found.
Well, it's just like turning back the clock, really. And it's just like a contact, where being at my own grandfather, a contact with my relatives has long been gone.
It was Adriana's ancestors that helped found the community. That's why to her, this historic find is important. The tunnels are believed to have spanned 1/4 mile. Underground businesses included a barber shop, a saloon, a house of ill repute, a harness shop, and others.
The building we're entering now was a barber shop at the corner of Main and Santa Fe.
Graffiti under peeling layers of wallpaper reveals a society of another era. In one place, the wall reads, "The Ellenwood Band met here for the last time on 12/29, but the year is missing."
Now this room, we feel, was the bathhouse connected to a barber shop, as all cowboy centers were known to have in the early days. We found on this windowsill someone had figured their wages October the 30th, $1.50, 1889, and October the 7th, but the amount is gone, in 1889.
So why build underground? Historians say it may have been to save money on above-ground construction.
You feel like you're turning back the clock of time when you're down here.
The other side of this wall may contain a tunnel to the old train depot, but no one knows for sure. What Adriana does know, though, is that more excavations are needed, and that the work lies not in the digging, but in convincing residents of Ellenwood that these historical tunnels are worth saving. In Ellenwood,
This is Laurie Hatteberg.
Adriana passed away in 2008 at age 89, but by then she'd sold the tunnels to the Ellenwood Museum Association, and they have become a tourist attraction. I am so excited to go see those tunnels.
Oh, it's very interesting, fascinating part of Ellenwood that nobody sees if you just roll into town. You have to go underground. I loved it.
Isn't that cool? There
It
was like
is.
a retail and everything underground that nobody knew about.
Nobody knew about it. Now, I did update this story in 2011 with the help of tour guide Richard Casagrande.
I own the Ellenwood Emporium, which is an antique and consignment store.
There is history here in his antique business, but most people just driving by would never know that under Richard Casagrande's store is something quite amazing.
I don't think people realize that at one time there was a whole community underground here in Ellenwood. This would have been active from about 1887 up to about 1920.
Underground, cowboys and anyone else, men mostly, could barber, bank, bath, and brothel without attracting much attention.
I think there's a wonderful sense of history down here. Most of what's here is original to the period, and much of it is original to the location. Well, this is Tom Drake's harness shop, and it's set up pretty much as it would have looked between, probably 1890 and 1900. We have woodworking and metalworking tools down here that were original to the harness shop.
Then the tour continues towards the amazing tunnels that used to branch out all over town. Now, surrounded by musty, dusty history, some of the past is saved for the present.
We had 11 saloons underground. We had the harness shop, bootmaker shop, and of course we had the brothels. Here to my left is the tunnel that went under Main Street to the Wolf Hotel, and of course it's been bricked off. To the right is William Young's barber shop.
No replicas here, real stuff in real rooms underground where cowboy life was lived but not seen.
While you were waiting your turn, you could have a smoke and play some cards and maybe even have a drink or two with your friends. Well, I don't know if anybody was actually shot, but we've counted about 12 bullet holes. Over on the wall there in front of the pheasant, there's a bullet lodged in the wall, 40 caliber bullet, so I guess it got kind of wild down here from time to time.
The tunnels were found years ago by Ellenwood resident Adriana Deeroff, whose family had owned the buildings for years. Well, she's gone now, and Richard has the business. A business whose history becomes more important with every passing day.
This was William Young's bathhouse and Ellenwood steam laundry. Most of what's here is original to the period, and much of it is original to the location. And you really get a sense of what life was like in the 19th century in central Kansas. When I sweep down here and it gets awful dusty, then I'm working, but other than that, it's great to bring the people through. Yeah, I think I was meant to be here. Oh, it's definitely not work. It's mostly fun.
Now, Richard still gives tours when he's available. There are more tunnels on the other side of the street underneath Chris McCord's Wolf Hotel, which is fascinating. He also gives tours and has reopened the old underground saloon on Friday and Saturday nights there. So you can go to Ellenwood, stay in the historic Wolf Hotel, go to the historic saloon and see underground Ellenwood. And I just actually talked to Chris a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I had to call him about something else to let him know when something was going to be on. And the hotel is doing well, and he's having a great time. But in Ellenwood, they're saving history. It's absolutely amazing.
You know, they could become a national tourist attraction
Could,
if they,
very easily.
You know, we should help market them.
We just did.
We did, didn't we? Okay, now we're going to go to Harper County, where every kid in Anthony knew Bob Jackson.
Now, Bob was technically retired when I visited with him in 1990, but he didn't have much time for taking it easy because there were chains to fix, tires to patch, gears to calibrate, and a lot of people depending on him. Take a look.
Work up a good appetite.
The peppers are ripe, the garden still needs tilling, flowers are blooming, and Bob Jackson of Anthony is retired. But this man's retirement is a lifestyle that leaves no time to sit. In retirement, he's still working mighty hard.
I have to wipe a little sweat once in a while.
Oh, you thought his garden was his retirement hobby? Wrong-o. He's got bikes.
Oh, I've got a bunch, maybe between 800 and 1,000 bicycles.
As a matter of fact, he's got bikes, and more bikes.
Oh, you don't retire when you're working on bicycles. There's no stop. Get done with one, you just start another one.
For 25 years, Bob has been collecting bicycles for his retirement.
It's
He's
fun.
worked on them part-time for the townsfolks. Now, it's full-time.
I just associating with people and helping kids out. And just something to keep busy at. It's fun. There's no trick to these working. They just step up as you shift them. This bicycle made in Holland.
With hundreds and hundreds of bikes and parts and fenders and wheels and chains scattered out over his storage areas, one could feel a little overwhelmed, but not Bob.
No, not really. It's pretty simple. Just kind of dig till you find some of it. And know where most of the parts are. There's a certain way to take them apart and a certain way to put them back together. I got too many parts, but that's all right. Ride about 4 miles a day and walk a mile and a half a day, me and my wife. And kind of talk things over and visit with the people walking. That's my last place, rocking chair. Oh, I watch sports, but I don't care if it's a rocking chair. I'd rather be out here working. I find something to do. I mean, sitting down, you just quit. If you got good health, you might as well enjoy it.
Now, prior to this, Bob had attended school for watchmaking and fixed timepieces for several years. That in addition to working at Beach Aircraft and then as a heavy equipment operator.
Then the bike repairs kept him busy for many, many years. Finally, in 2013, Bob passed away at age 85, a man of several different talents.
Right, and in a small town, I mean, in Wichita, there are bike shops where you can get your bike repaired. In a small town, that's not the case. So the kids were lucky to have somebody to repair their bike.
Instead of buying a new one.
Right.
I mean, it's great. We need to repair the old and not be
Right.
a throwaway
And he saw a
society.
need.
Yeah.
And he filled that
And
need.
he filled it.
That's what happens in a small town.
I know.
Yeah.
I love them.
All right, it's easy to complain about something. We all do it. But it's a lot more productive to take action and to do something about it.
That's what Dorothy Flatman did in Winfield. Let's fire up the time machine again and go back to 1984. Young Larry, take it away.
Have you ever seen a piece of land that had a lot of garbage and weeds growing in it and you thought, gee, I wish someone would do something about it? Well, in Winfield, Kansas, a woman saw such a piece of land, and she turned out to be the someone who did something about it. It was one of those hot summer days in Winfield when the temperature would reach well over 100 degrees. Dorothy Flatman was getting ready to tend her garden. Now, there's nothing unusual about that. Gardens are common. But Dorothy's garden is a little different. Her garden lies between a busy highway and a city street. Fact is, it's in a medial owned by the city.
We recognized that this was really an ugly spot here at the entrance to Winfield, and we wanted to see something more beautiful as people came into town.
In 1980, Dorothy and her mother saw this medial strip as a gathering place for weeds and trash, and they decided to change all that. They asked the city of Winfield if they could plant a garden on this no man's land in memory of Dorothy's father. The city gave permission, ran a water line, and the weeds turned to flowers.
It's not easy work, but I've always enjoyed outside work, so really it's something that I get a big kick out of doing. Right now I'm kind of winded. And I would like to recommend that people in their own communities, this is something a lot of people could do. Surely on your way to work or to school, you've seen a spot that maybe needs some special attention. Volunteer, offer your services, and it would, if more people would do this, well, our cities would be much more beautiful.
Dorothy and her family paid out of their own pocket for all the flowers and shrubs planted here, and Dorothy says that's okay. Some people play golf to relax, others boat. But when they're done, they have nothing to show for it. Dorothy says when she's done, she's got the beauty of nature to enjoy.
People drive by and they honk, and so you wave back, and it's just a friendly sort of atmosphere when you're here.
So the next time you're traveling down Highway 160 east of Winfield, you may see Dorothy Flatman working on her own time, spending her own money. So a simple medial strip can serve not only to control traffic, but to promote beauty, because a citizen cared. This is Larry Hatteberg.
Well, Dorothy kept planting and taking care of the flowers there for many more years, as long as she was still physically able.
She now lives in an assisted care facility in Wichita, but the flowers, they're still blooming on that median strip in Winfield. Her legacy will live on and on through the blooms.
It is, and I was down in Winfield a month or so ago, and I saw those flowers. I went back the exact place she normally
You
was.
did, and they're still a-blooming.
Still blooming,
That's
and so
neat.
was she. Well, Cindy Gertz at the local historical society say that the city has made that area a little pocket park, and they keep it up very nicely down there. And as I say, I saw it, and it is nice.
That's not...
You know, and when I see that pocket park, I think of her.
Do you?
Yeah,
I bet everybody does in town. And I like that word, pocket park. It's just a little pocket park.
It's cute.
That's
I like
great.
that.
Many of us believe that angels are watching over us from above. But Esther Lewis of Eureka had angels watching her from all directions.
Now, this story is from 2002.
Just fun to collect. It's just a house full of collectibles.
Esther Lewis lives in an immaculate home in Eureka, Kansas.
I'm just a average person.
A home she shares with hundreds of winged friends.
Well, I just somehow I'm fascinated by them, and I think they're beautiful.
Esther has collected angels for years. Every room of her home, every room is filled with these heavenly bodies.
To me, they're very beautiful, the colors, and I just appreciate the looks of them, and they are peaceful to me. They make me feel more peaceful. Mulberry School, I'm a school secretary, have been for 28 years.
At Eureka's Mulberry Elementary, Esther deals with those she calls her other angels.
They all have their angelic moments. I do enjoy collecting, and it's taken a while. It seems like once you start, you're always seeing something else you just have to have. I do get enjoyment out of my collections. It doesn't take loneliness away, though, when I feel lonely.
The loneliness abates, though, as hundreds of angel eyes with a fixed, glazed stare just watch and wait.
I'm not overly religious, but I do believe in God, and He and His angels watch over us. It's just a variety, and their expressions, each one is different, and they're just heavenly. I don't know, I'm just attracted to, they're what I like to collect.
"19 years later, Esther is still at it. Her daughter Jane says the collection has just gotten bigger and bigger. Fortunately, Esther has a large 5-bedroom home.
It's interesting what people collect to me.
Isn't
you know,
it?
The angels and other people collect stamps, but she has, the good news is she has a big
5-bedroom house, yeah.
That's incredible. So I'm sure each room is still full of those angels.
And, you know, watching over her.
Exactly.
Well, we're out of time already for this week. Hatteberg's People, kpts.org. That's our email address.
And we hope you enjoyed this show. Until next time, I'm Larry Hatteberg. Susan and I will see you again soon. Take care, everybody.